I've always wondered just how many unarmed colonists it would take to down or kill a single Thrumbo. It's just one of those burning scientific questions that needs to be answered. So I built a large arena, I trapped a single Thrumbo, and to ensure this endeavour is purely scientific, I started off this test by sending in a single colonist to fight a single Thrumbo. Although our colonist managed to land first blood on the Thrumbo, he was downed after 2 hits from the Thrumbo's horn. While that first guy never really stood a chance, if 3 colonists team up, they might stand a better chance at fighting off the Thrumbo. As they headed out of the gate, they kind of meandered towards the Thrumbo at first, but then they got to landing blows and they did quite a good job of it. Despite the Thrumbo having much heftier stats than our colonists, because the colonists outnumber them, they can get a lot more hits in than the Thrumbo himself. But as Holiday lay bleeding out on the floor, Draper was fatally wounded by the Thrumbo's horn. Despite a slight numerical advantage, these 3 colonists never really stood a chance against the unstoppable rage of a maddened Thrumbo. I left Lawman to bleed to death next to his fallen comrades, and I prepared 6 more colonists to fight the mighty Thrumbo. As the colonists charged out of the gate, the Thrumbo was waiting for them. Our guys actually managed to land the first couple of hits, uppercutting into the soft underbelly of the Thrumbo. Our colonists had the Thrumbo totally surrounded, but as the Thrumbo started to fight back, the blood started to flow. With the Thrumbo taking such punishment, I thought to check their health stats, when all of a sudden it simply died. After landing about 100 punches, these 6 colonists had managed to take no casualties, while also taking down a Thrumbo with their bare hands. And while their injuries were a bit life-threatening, it had only taken 6 colonists to down one of the most deadly predators in all of Rimworld. To be honest, these colonists were starting to look a bit smug for my tastes. So I spawned in 20 more Thrumbos to see if we can create a more scientifically accurate test. If 6 unarmed colonists can take out a single Thrumbo, then surely if we spawn in 120 colonists, they should be able to kill 20 Thrumbos. Either that or our initial test was a total fluke, and we're about to send 120 colonists to their deaths. 120 colonists sounded like quite a lot to me initially, so I thought we'd start off with just 60, and then move up to 120 if the first 60 don't survive. I have to say it didn't look promising for them from the beginning. The colonists who spawned in the west and the south charged straight in, while those who spawned in the north and the east formed up into a halfway respectable defensive line. From the outset, it looked like the Thrumbos were winning this. There was a particularly violent mosh pit in the west of the arena, and things were even less coordinated in the south, with 15 colonists being swarmed and ripped apart by Thrumbos. With the western and the southern skirmishes falling apart, the rest of the Thrumbos headed north. This was really not a good place to be a pacifist, I have to say it, and yet I still seem to be spawning lots of these non-combatants. As the skirmish came to a bloody end in the north, the Thrumbos charged back into the arena, for they could smell the blood of the last surviving colonist. They chased him into the southern barracks, then they swarmed him a bit, and then they ripped him to pieces. With 60 colonists dead or downed and the Thrumbos not looking really all that bothered, I have to wonder if 120 colonists will really be able to make any sort of difference. As soon as they spawned in, my ears were awash with the sound of hundreds of punches and angry Thrumbos, who had basically spawn camped all of the colonists. This sneaky tactic was undone by the colonists in the north barracks, as they rained down punch after punch on the mighty Thrumbos. While the 30 colonists in the eastern barracks weren't doing so well, the colonists in the southern barracks had formed into a solid mass that was proving somewhat difficult for the Thrumbos to dislodge. As the fight was looking desperate in the eastern barracks, the colonists from the northern barracks decided to help out their beleaguered fellow colonists, and as they charged into the eastern barracks, it just looked like they were feeding more bodies into the bloodbath. As the Thrumbos assaulted the northern barracks, the colonists were completely outnumbered. The last of the survivors were completely overwhelmed. Only the southern barracks had managed to hold out so far, but soon they would start to feel the squeeze. The last 15 colonists charged out of the arena and into the fridge of all places. With their backs against the wall, would they stand more of a fighting chance? Well, probably not, because there's quite a lot of Thrumbos outside and they're quite angry. As the furious horde of Thrumbos massed on the freezer, the last of the surviving colonists fought, one by one, until the bitter end. In total, our colonists had managed to kill about 3 Thrumbos altogether, so while 6 colonists might be able to kill a single Thrumbo, when we scale things up, it turns out that 120 colonists don't stand a chance against such an overwhelming amount of Thrumbos. Seeing as our 120 colonists barely managed to even make a scratch on these Thrumbos, I've got to wonder just how valid the result was during the first test. I have to wonder if 6 of our colonists killing a Thrumbo was actually kind of a fluke, and if we ran the test over and over again, like more scientifically, then we might see completely different results. I would have thought it would have taken about 15 people to take a Thrumbo down, not 6. I really wasn't expecting that. But maybe we can revisit this at some point in the future. I think this is the quickest video I've ever made. I built the entire base in about an hour. I recorded this entire video in about 2 hours, and this is also the first video that I've totally ad-libbed. There was no script to this whatsoever. I've just made it up as I've gone along. I've never done that before, so yeah, that's pretty awesome. I've managed to get this entire thing done in like 24 hours, so yeah. If I could put a few of these out every week, I mean, that would be ace. It would really help with the algorithm and all that, so yeah, hopefully I can do that. But without a script, it seems like I'm already rambling. So please hit that like button if you're into these kind of burning scientific questions, and you also possess no moral scruples as to how we answer those burning scientific questions. And please subscribe for more content just like this in the near future, as I seem to be experiencing a bit of a burst of productivity, which is really rare for me. I mean, seriously, look at my upload rate. Or don't, because it's really bad. It's really bad. But it'll change, don't worry.